It's all hands on deck as the Cincinnati Reds finally get healthy, but is it too little, too late?
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Jeff. He's Steve. And on today's Locked On Reds podcast, a little bit later on, we're going to talk about the awesome story that is Julian Garcia as he made his major league debut Tuesday night. And we're going to begin our draft talk as we get closer to the MLB draft. In just a few minutes, we're going to break down whether Matt McLain or Edwin Arroyo is better to have love than to never have. Whatever, I messed up the quote. Doesn't matter. We'll talk about Matt McLain and Edwin Arroyo here in a few minutes. But we will begin with where the Reds are health-wise because Elly De La Cruz is back. He is in the lineup. That didn't help at all as the Reds didn't hit hardly at all in Tuesday night's game. They had one single solitary hit from Jose Trevino off of the starter for Milwaukee, and it was just a mess. It's not a good night for the lineup. And then you have Hunter Greene throwing rehab innings in AAA. Pierce Johnson's back in the bullpen. You're getting reports that Emilio Pagan is close to back. Full strength is within reach, Steve. And quite frankly, everybody showed up, and that ship is already in. It's already taking on water.
It's on fire. The nose is pointing up in the air. The folks are in the lifeboats. It's not a good place to be right now, Jeff. I mean, it's hard because on one hand, if you go to the standings right now, as you and I are recording here, following another Reds loss to the stinking Milwaukee Brewers, the Reds have no hope of winning the National League Central. But if you look at the wild card standings, they're 4 games back after the loss to the Brewers last night. So it's hard to just say abandon ship, but also the current indications are not that they're going to figure this out and get it done. This team has drifted back into the territory of that thing they did last year, that thing that drove you and I both bonkers, which is they do kind of what we ask them to do, but they do it the most frustrating way possible. So I already know how this is going to go, Jeff. They're going to get swept today by the Milwaukee Brewers. They're going to face the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they are going to sweep them because I don't know if you checked recently, but the Pirates aren't hitting the ball either. They're going to sweep the Pirates and renew the hope in our hearts, the joy in our lives. There'll be rainbows and kittens and sunshine as we head to Milwaukee for a 4-game set where they'll get their teeth kicked in once again because that's how this team performs right now. It's kind of what I'm seeing. Yeah. It's what the tea leaves are telling me, and I hope that I'm wrong, Jeff, but it's kind of the jam that this team has been throwing down lately.
Yeah, they just consistently seem to be as close as you possibly can be to what they want to be without actually being it. And that's the most frustrating part about them is that they aren't horrible. Like I see a lot of people that are just like, this team is like one of the worst Reds teams I've ever seen in my life. No, they're not.
Even close.
And I think that I think that it's like the most maddening part about that is that it's like they're not horrible. They're not great at being great, and they're also not great at being bad. They're just mid. And I feel like I said that last year. I feel like I said that 2 years ago. This is the same team that we have been watching now for 3 years, and you can put in a new guy over here and a new guy over there, but for the most part, we are seeing the exact same things year in and year out. And getting Elly De La Cruz is good for this lineup in the long haul. It didn't pay out night 1. Maybe it'll pay out night 2, but it just feels like getting them back to full strength. We said this a little while ago, even when Hunter Greene went down. It's great that Hunter Greene's going to come back at some point this season, but what state will the Reds be in when he gets here? I don't know if you saw this or not. There was a video that was posted. I believe it was Jeremy Rowell that posted it on Twitter, but a post-game interview with Hunter Greene after his start on Tuesday night in Louisville, where he threw 4 innings. He only threw 56 pitches. He was slated to throw 70 to 75, but he only threw 56 of those, but he did that in 4 innings. Hunter Greene said the words, "Feel great, feel good, we got one more."
So I didn't catch that. if he's talking about doing one more rehab start and then being activated, I'm going to need to see him throw. I'm going to need to see him throw 80 plus pitches in that next start. They cannot bring him to the big league level as a 4 or 5 inning, 50 to 60 pitch guy. It's not fair to Hunter. It's not good for the team. It's not good. You have to remember that Hunter Greene is going to be starting from scratch when he comes to the big league level. And I don't want them to jeopardize whatever version of health he has going on right now in order to get him one start sooner. I think he needs 2 more starts in Louisville before they pick him up. If they can get him to the 75 pitch mark in the next start and then do one more start where they push him out to 80, 85, bring him up. Let's go. Let's roll. But that next start's going to have to be phenomenal for me to be like, all right, let's get him up here.
I think he lines up that he would make one more start in Louisville, I think on Sunday. I don't know if they would push that to next Tuesday or not. I know that generally speaking, I think they only have starters make one start in a week, but it would line up that he would pitch on Sunday. So then you could conceivably see him come back the following week, but that would be really shocking. I mean, I know
a
we
big
said
piece
July.
of this, Jeff. A big piece of this is going to be what we hear later today about Nick Lodolo's hand. Is there any damage? Is anything broke? Is it more than is it just swelling from getting a comebacker to it? Like, we don't know yet. Nick Lodolo didn't know. Terry Francona doesn't know. He
said after the game, he'll make his next start.
Okay. Well, Nick Lodolo didn't say that in his post-game presser. He said it depends. He said it depends on if they find anything. That's what Nick Lodolo said. It's so
weird that it seems like the Reds are being ultra aggressive with bringing people back this year. Like, they did that with Rhett Lauder. They did that with Brandon Williamson early on in the year, and that didn't pan out very well. And they did that with what it felt like Nick Lodolo there. Like, he didn't really have any rehab starts before he came back after missing a ton of time. And it just seems as though the Reds are doing this weird thing in that they're not giving guys these full rehab stints. So yes, they are coming back to full strength as a roster. Is it only going to be a 5-inning version of Hunter Greene? Because I'm with you. I'm not that enthused by that. And so I feel like we need to assess what the Reds are really getting back and at what state they're getting it back in. Because you're right, they're still a good week away from making it into the wild card, but are they going to hold on to that wild card spot? Does a wild card spot equate to buying for this team? There's so many questions that I think
that's a great question.
Is interesting.
That's a great question, because no, I don't think it equates to buying.
I don't think so.
But it equates to not selling, which is a problem. If you're not going to be a buyer, you need to be a seller. What they can't be is a group of people that just stand pat. That's a problem. And they will hear about it from me the rest of this year if they land in the lane of stand pat, because this is not a stand pat team. It is not, as you said, they're just mid. They either need to blow it up and get better or go out and get better. But to just do this the rest of the year, if I had hair, I'd lose it.
I think you might want to keep that one in the chamber because it feels like that's what we're headed for. But look, the Reds are at full strength, which gives us a little bit of hope. And yet they're really good at dashing that hope, because right immediately after Elly De La Cruz comes back, he doesn't get a hit. The lineup barely gets a hit, and the Reds get beat yet again by the Milwaukee Brewers. 2-15 in the NL Central as we speak here on June 23rd, going into June 24th.
What was the stat? 12 of the last 13 series against the Milwaukee Brewers, the Reds have lost.
And all of the home series included in that. The last time they won a series against the Brewers was at the end of last year in Milwaukee. Like,
maybe that was home. Maybe that stat's home series. Maybe they've lost 12 of the last 13 home series against the Brewers. Something like that. I'm not sure. I didn't catch all the stat, but while we've got a second, let's talk about Elly. Just a second.
Yeah.
He was over, couple strikeouts. It's okay. He's going to need a minute to get his timing back and get his stuff. I don't want everybody to panic. I know what his numbers look like in AAA. I know what he looked like last night. It's okay. He's going to find his swing. I'm not worried about that.
Wholeheartedly agree.
All right, Jeff. Well, we have a decision to make here pretty quick, because the Reds are going to have to really choose between one of these guys. Is it going to be Matt McLain or is it going to be Edwin Arroyo? We'll tell you coming up next. Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs help you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all of the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. One great addition can have a ripple effect on everyone around them. When you find someone who brings the right skills, the right attitude, the right experience, it makes the entire group work better. That's why finding qualified candidates matters so much, and why tools like Indeed Sponsored Jobs can help make the process easier. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of Locked On Reds get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Reds by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. You already live the Cincinnati Reds every single day. Elevate your game. Join the Everydayer Club. Ad-free Locked On Reds over in the audio feed. You also get access to the exclusive Discord server where every single host from every single show is talking ball all the time. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer to get started. $5 a month, $50 a year. Get you ad-free Locked On Reds. All right, Jeff, I'm not looking forward to this conversation because the answer kind of hurts my heart a little bit, but we're going to have to make a decision between Matt McLain and Edwin Arroyo here. And I feel like it probably needs to be Edwin Arroyo.
I think at this point it's and I don't love using this term, but this just kind of seems to apply the best to me. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And usually you take the devil you know, but I think in this case, I'd rather go with the devil I don't know. Like, Edwin Arroyo has barely been up here, not enough time to make a stamp, and certainly the peripherals don't love him right now. Like, he has yet to get a barrel. His hard hit rate is atrocious and things like that, but he's barely had any at-bats to really put his stamp on anything. So I would like to see more from him. I like his glove. I like his base running, albeit I know he did just get caught stealing on Tuesday night. But ultimately, I think that there is something there to see. I think Matt McLain needs to go to AAA and just see the ball hit grass again. And maybe that'll help. Because there's no skill. Like you said last year, and you said this a lot, and I 100% agree with you. There's nothing he can gain or learn from going to AAA. The only thing he can gain is confidence. And that's all he needs at this point. Because it feels like you watch him at the plate and he is standing there trying to hit a bases empty grand slam just about every time he steps into the box.
I mean, and let's call it what it is. You know, I've said all along, I'd be willing to entertain a conversation on Matt McLain if they targeted other areas first. And they have targeted those areas. And, you know, we talked about Will Benson. He's now a member of the Louisville Bats. We talked about he should be the next one to go down when they bring up Elly De La Cruz. That's what they did. So the next target, the next guy that you really have to talk about making a change is Matt McLain. There are no others now on my list of guys to go after. They've done that already. So I agree with you. I think you send him down, you play him every day at second base in Louisville, and you let him try and build some confidence and maybe find that swing again so that he can come back, because I want him to come back. His defense is too good. His presence in the clubhouse is too good. But you can no longer justify keeping him around, because what I've always said, Jeff, is cool. You're going to send him down. Who do you got that's better? Well, in this case, you give all that playing time to Edwin Arroyo and see what you've got. And then maybe you bring up Hector Rodriguez and you help out the outfield a little bit.
It was telling to me that before the game on Tuesday, they had a chat with Terry Francona about this situation specifically. And they said, you know, what is your plan with McLain and Arroyo? And Tito did that all shucks thing that I'm really starting to dislike. But he did that all shucks, you know, I just don't know, you know, it'll work itself out. And, you know, we'll see how it works out. And it's just like, all right, you're the guy that needs to know that, because you're the guy that decides that. Like, yeah, it's not our decision, as much as, you know, sometimes it feels like we could make that decision. But in this case, like, do you platoon them for right now and see if that helps out McLain or whatnot? I don't know what the answer is with them both here. It kind of feels like they're both sitting in the same seat, and they just got to figure out who's got to get up and move for the time being and let the other guy sit there for a while. Because right now there's not a glaring, obvious choice, but I know Matt McLain has struggled mightily over the last 2 seasons. We now have a large sample size of struggle for him. We don't know who Edwin Arroyo is, and I would like to learn more about him.
Yeah, and Edwin Arroyo is starting to move in the right direction. You look at his last 15 games, 233, 277, 279. No real power to speak of, though. I mean, we know that about him. But in the last week, if you cut that sample size down, Jeff, batting average jumps to 240, on-base percentage jumps to 296, almost to 300. So he's moving in the right direction. We know what direction Matt McLain has been moving. There's been a couple bumps, but he always kind of returns to that baseline that just has you confounded. He keeps the on-base percentage right at 300, and it keeps the batting average right at 200. So for me, I'm ready to do it. I agree with you. Send him down. Get Hector Rodriguez up here. Give the playing time to Edwin Arroyo. Let's see what happens. And hope that Matt McLain figures it out and has a return. I want to say I'm rooting for Matt McLain. This is not me giving up on him.
Right.
They've got to do something different to maybe get something jump started, and it makes sense now. It hasn't made sense up till now, but it makes sense now.
No, and I think that's going to be a key thing for him. It's not just about, you gotta get rid of this part of your team because this part of your team just hasn't been good. It's also like we gotta figure out how to get Matt right because this team needs Matt in so many different ways, and it's not a situation where we think he's toast. It just seems as though there's moments where the confidence is there and he plays really well for like 3 or 4 games. And then something happens, and it's not always the same thing, but something happens and it disappears. And then it takes him weeks to find it again. And by that time, everything has plummeted back down. He is in danger of falling below 200 again on his batting average. He is right. I mean, he's got a worse batting average than last year, slightly better on base and slugging. But I mean, you're splitting hairs here if you're looking for that and saying that that's a positive. He just needs to go down to AAA, and we need to see the lion's share of time for Edwin Arroyo. And I think, too, the other part of this, it's a smaller part. I'm starting to wonder about Noelvi Marte in right field, and I think I'd like to see some Hector Rodriguez out there. And so that would be your move.
Listen,
you send down Matt McLain and call Hector Rodriguez.
Hector Rodriguez cannot play a worse right field than Noelvi Marte. Now, I know Noelvi Marte has a better opportunity to run into one in the batter's box, but we haven't seen a whole lot of that either. So, I mean, there's a whole lot with this team right now where you look at it and you're like, well, let's try it, because what do they have to lose? What do they have to lose in giving some playing time to Hector Rodriguez at the big league level right now? Nothing to lose. What do they have to lose in sending Matt McLain down to try and get him right and just letting Edwin Arroyo play? Nothing to lose. It's time to make these moves. And 1, it helps you know what you've got cooking for next season. And 2, you're doing something versus the definition of insanity, which is keep running that same lineup out there and hope that something else happens. They got to do something different.
Well, and even like outside of the fielding thing, even the batting has seemed to have left Noelvi Marte. Like his at bat, I really watched closely against Abner Uribe. I believe it was in the 8th inning that he took. And he looked like there was a moment where he understood the strike zone. It's swing at a breaking ball low and away again. But he looked like he was getting it right. And then with a 3-2 count, Uribe throws a fastball, center cut, looked like it's something he should have clobbered, and he straight up missed it. Didn't even foul tip it into the catcher's glove, nothing. Straight up missed it. I don't know if he's looking for other things and he's getting fooled by fastballs or whatever it is, but right now he looks like he's on skates in the batter's box. And it's so disheartening to see, because for 2 seconds after he got called up, he was looking good. Now it seems like he's just falling back into the same thing. I really want to be right. I really want to be wrong about this and see him get better. But I mean, we're starting to get to the point here where you need to explore all avenues, and the only avenue that they've yet to explore this season is Hector Rodriguez. So why not?
And that's really the last one. I mean, that's a fair statement, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like, that's the last guy in Louisville that I'm interested in having a look-see at on the entire roster. Not really anybody else.
Yeah. It's clear, though, that the Reds need to make a decision on Matt McLain and Edwin Arroyo, and it can't just be, well, he plays some. Give some guy the lion's share. Let's see what Hector Rodriguez has and call that dude up. And coming up next, Julian Garcia is an awesome story, and I'm hoping that we get to see more chapters of it out of the bullpen.
ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMSS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with a licensed healthcare provider online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make you getting care easier. Taking care of yourself doesn't have to feel complicated, and HIMSS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. When something is already uncomfortable to talk about, it's the last thing you want to do is have a complicated process to go along with it. Having the ability to start online from home makes taking the first step feel much more manageable. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is the registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMSS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris.
Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of just managing software. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. That's true on the baseball field right now, because you're watching the Milwaukee Brewers. They know how to do it. They do it well. They've done it well for so long, and the Reds continue to trail in every possible category to them. They have their organization in alignment. The Reds don't, because great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/locked on. I invite you to keep the conversation going with us after the show is over on social media. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs over on X or on TikTok. You can follow Steve at S Offenbaker with 2 Fs over on X, and you can follow the show at Locked On Reds. All right, Steve, we did get to see something in Tuesday night that was a little bit inspirational and happy and cool in Julian Garcia, making his major league debut out of the bullpen, albeit under circumstances that you wouldn't love to see, with Nick Lodolo getting hit and all this other stuff. But Julian Garcia pitched decently well, ended up giving up a run because his base runner that he allowed scored on a crazy triple because Noelvi Marte can't field and Caleb Ferguson can't get lefties out for some reason. But that run gets charged to Julian Garcia. Ultimately, though, he looked pretty good. And we're talking about a dude that made his major league debut at the age of, sorry, I had this
31.
pulled up and it just went
31.
away. 31.
Yeah, no, he's the third oldest player to make their debut for the Reds in the team's history, behind Fernando Cruz and Shogo Akiyama, who had that on their bingo cards today. Yeah. He looked good. And, sure. Not just did he go and make a debut, but, he looked good in doing it. 1 2/3 worth of work, limited damage, struck some guys out. That's a success. That's a success. we need some feel good around here right now, and that's some feel good. And I hope he continues to be able to pitch and do some things for this bullpen, because God knows they need some help.
I spoke about him a little bit whenever we were talking about, speculating on controlling some of Chase Burns' workload and things like that. So I didn't get too far into it. He was drafted back in 2016 by the Philadelphia Phillies. He was a 10th round pick. 10th round pick, first pick of the 10th round back in 2016 by Philadelphia. He pitched in the minor leagues for 8 years. There were 2 years in there where he actually pitched in independent ball. 1 year in independent ball, 1 year where I think he just kind of was trying to figure things out. Just like, am I still going to keep doing this? In his credit, he kept trying. The Reds picked him up, gave him a chance in Chattanooga in 2025, pulled him up to Louisville in 2026. And this year, right before he got called up, absolutely on fire. 13.6 strikeouts per 9 and a walks per 9 that was manageable enough of 3.03. Like, crazy numbers like that. If we can get some semblance of that from him, then we'll have a pretty good, solid middle relief pitcher.
And, they keep talking about his spin rates and his ability to manipulate the baseball. I hope there's not some sticky stuff going on there, Jeff.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But no,
baseball's gotten pretty good about controlling things like that. I know he's a journeyman. I know he's not going to be here long. But, you and I were talking off air that we need something to balance out some of the negative that's been going on right now. And these are the kind of things that I look forward to hearing about. I don't know if you caught any of the shots of his family in the stands watching him pitch. What a journey, that many years before finally getting to make that major league debut. And then you get to go, multiple innings and have some success. I'm really rooting for this guy. Is he going to be a game changer in the bullpen? No, but I hope that the success he's had this year continues and that he can be a piece in that bullpen for a while. The Reds have gone through arms at a rate that has astounded me this year. So if there's another guy we can add to the mix that can just eat some innings, he was stretched out a little bit in Louisville. He can go multi-inning outings, and the Reds need that right now. Especially with these starters that either are snake bit or just coming back from injury and can't throw pitches. Like, the bullpen has had to cover a lot of innings. So they need these kind of multi-inning guys that can be available down there and cover 2 innings, cover, 1 1/3, 1 2/3 when Francona needs them to.
Yeah. And he's got a nice pitch mix too. Like you mentioned, all the spin that he puts on it, his fastball, his breaker, he's got a change up. Kind of feels like he can work all of those pitches in and around the zone. Be interesting to see how that continues. He did have 1 walk. That was one thing that kind of plagued him before he left the Phillies system and went to independent ball. His final year in Philadelphia's system, he was in Double-A, and he had 6.75 walks per 9. So hopefully that's something that he really worked on, because in his last 2 years with the Reds, his walk rate has been far more manageable than that. And hopefully we can continue to see that here at the major league level. But I want to close out today's episode with this, because we're going to kind of jump into some draft talk as we get closer to the draft, July 11th being that day. And where the Reds are sitting right now, it's a bit of that precarious spot where it's hard to predict what they will end up doing. It could look a lot like last year, and I've seen some predictions. And one of the first things that we'll talk about as we get deeper into this will be the fact that I've seen that they might be taking another prep player, another high school player, like they did last year with Steele Hall. And while there is fantastic potential and all that other stuff with Steele Hall, still way down the road. And in fact, if you look up and down the Reds draft from last year, most of them, all of them, are either complex league or Daytona. And so none of them are close. They didn't really pick anybody that is close enough to the majors or ready enough that you're like, okay, he can move fast through the system or something like that. I don't know that they'll be afforded that opportunity this year, but man, that would be nice, because it does not feel like the next wave is ready. And I recall, I don't know, maybe I put words into his mouth, but I recall a feeling as though the Reds farm system would be set up to just come wave after wave after wave after wave of talent to the major league level. And it feels like we're already looking at a gap here. Nick Krall doesn't really have a whole lot to help us.
Wave after wave, we've eliminated peaks and valleys, and we're eliminating high tide and low tide, buddy. We're just running flat. We're not doing that here. Taking high school players is a big gamble. It's a big risk because you just don't know. So much can happen between the time they get picked and the time they would be ready for a potential major league debut, with minuscule exceptions of guys that have made it as, teenagers to the bigs. But I would much rather them look at college players, maybe somebody that does something besides pitch or play shortstop, maybe somebody that's a bona fide, outfield prospect that's closer. I don't know. I just feel like whatever philosophy they've set over the last several years seems to have not worked. And much like everything else we're saying, it's time for them to do something different. I would like for them to get out of the box a little bit, draft another position. High school makes me nervous. Get some help to this big league club sooner than later.
They had a chance, and I remember we talked about this guy a lot before the draft started. He's in high A for Baltimore right now, but a college hitter named Ike Irish was the guy that we were looking at for the Reds last year in the draft. He is currently in the top 10 of Baltimore's system. They have he's ranked number 7, depending on where you look. He's in the top 10 somewhere, but hitting pretty well at high A. Something like that, if not a little bit better. It's going to be hard there in the middle rounds. Like, I've heard a lot of people say that this draft is ridiculously top heavy, and once you get out of like the top 5, all bets are off. Like, you could get yourself a game changer, and you could get yourself somebody who flames out really quickly. So this will be an interesting spot for a Reds team that, like you said, the whole draft and develop part hadn't really been working too much here recently. So
we're drafting. There ain't a whole lot of developing going on.
They fell into Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder 2 years in a row. I don't think they're falling into a good situation here. So this is going to be a test for the scouting department, our friend, Tyler Gibbons and those guys over there. And it's going to be a test for the development department once that guy gets picked. There's so much going on here that we have to hope that the Reds organization works in this case. And we're going to be talking a lot about the draft as we move forward here on Locked On Reds. So make sure that you're subscribed and that you follow us every single day. We will be talking about this team. And as we get closer to the deadline, talking about what the Reds need to be doing, kind of starting to get a feeling one way. I would like to be wrong about it. We'll see. Probably not wrong.
Going to do it.
But we'll be all over.
Do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Make sure you click subscribe. Make sure you click the notification bell. For the audio folks, go check out Locked On MLB. 3 shows over there to give you your Major League Baseball fix. Sully's got you covered from a national perspective. Former Reds reliever Mike Stanton talking about baseball from a retired player's perspective. And MLB Game Night, watching every single game, every single night so that you don't have to. For the video folks, I'm going to send you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where the experts of the Locked On Network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll be back in your feeds tomorrow, hopefully not talking about a sweep. We'll keep gathering up the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
Do we have to become the podcast that is just a bunch of haters so that the Reds will start winning games? Like, I think I'm kind of to the point that I accept that mandate, but
we're undefeated in the reverse psychology department. So maybe that's the answer.